Good morning and welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Wednesday, April 15th. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps. They are higher. We're up 0.05%. That's ebbing higher. It's edging higher. It was a little lower, but we do see a little momentum in there. And a lot of it is due to the, developments on the Middle East. Trump's out there saying that he thinks that the conflict will be over soon. And he says that he wants to keep any reparations bill very slim. But expectations still persist for potential, de-escalation, but any changes to that narrative is going to quickly reignite volatility. So you got to be cautious there. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed, and that's keeping, energy prices rather elevated. But if Iran tries to put a ship through and the U.S. stops it, that could cause oil prices to start to spike again. So we got to be cautious on this front. On the economic calendar today, you get the Fed's Beige Book. That's coming out this afternoon. It's going to provide some insights into the economic conditions here in the U.S. on the geopolitical tensions that we've been seeing over the last month. What else do we have? Managed healthcare companies, they're under pressure following the reports of a 14% drop in ACA enrollments. And, that's due to the premiums increasing. The premiums increased at the start of the year. And as a result, people are foregoing, their health insurance. What else do we have? Oh, the SEC. This is a big one. The SEC plans to remove the trading limits, the day trading limits. You got to put in 25,000 in order to get 4-to-1 leverage. Well, they're going to remove that and make it more of a rule risk-based system. That's positive, and you're seeing the online brokers run as a result this morning. Also this morning we got earnings. ASML and Bank of America are trading higher. After their earnings reports, JB Hunt is going to be releasing after the close. JBHT, and then tomorrow morning you got TSMC, you got PepsiCo, you got Abbott Labs, you got Charles Schwab, Prologix, Bank of New York. Travelers Group and others reporting. Take a look overseas. The DAX has turned. The DAX was opened higher, fell down, was down a little bit, and now it's trading higher again. It's up 0.12% or 27 points. You've seen some gains in autos. You've seen some gains in healthcare. The FTSE's higher by 0.18% or 18 points. The index is really stabilizing with improved sentiment there around the cyclicals. But the CAC comparison, that's off. That's down 0.55%. What's weighing on that index is the earnings reports from some luxury stocks. Following those reports, you're seeing that index pull down because where tech kind of runs the U.S. Indices, in Paris, it's really the luxury stocks. So, when they don't do well, you see that index kind of pull back. Looking overseas in Asia last night, we're looking at the Nikkei. The Nikkei rose 256 points or 0.44%. And, continued strength in technology shares did, help keep that market in the green. You're looking at the Hang Seng was up 75 points or 0.29%. Outperformance in consumer and tech stocks. China. China finished flat. I mean, it was in the green, 0.01%, but it was essentially flat. Financial stocks did, show some positive action overnight, I will say, in China. And then we're looking at oil, and oil is trading higher. I mean, the Brent, Brent is trading, up, a little more than 0.5% to $95.34. Whereas in WTI, the May contract's at 91.52. That's up 0.26%. And if you're noticing, this, you're seeing Brent trade above WTI, and that's kind of where it should be, indicating that, that there's less pressure for U.S. imports. So we got to be positive on that turnaround. Plus, you got the API stockpiles reports that came out last night. It showed a 6.1 million barrel build for the week ending April 10th. And but I will say markets are focused on the tanker traffic on the Strait of Hormuz. The Navy has closed it. The U.S. Navy has closed it. And for that blockade to be lifted, Iran is going to need to make concessions on an international level to reopening those shipping lanes. So we'll have to wait and see how that happens. But there's going to be more to come on that because, talks are said to be, worked out for a scheduled date. We'll have to wait and see if that's going to be this weekend or not. But, so far it is pretty positive. Okay, now we're turning our attention onto earnings, and we're looking at Bank of America, ticker BAC. Stocks up 0.88% as they beat by 9 cents on higher revenue. Then we're looking at Morgan Stanley, ticker MS, which is up 2.5% after a beat of 41 cents on higher revenue. Upcoming after the bell, you got JBHT, JB Hunt. Their EPS is $1.44, expected expected move is 5.57%. Tomorrow morning, you got Pepsi, ticker PEP, Paul Edward Paul, EPS is $1.55, expected move is 4.28%. TSM, Tom, Sam, Michael, their EPS is $1.55. Expected move is their EPS is $3.29. Expected move is 4.74%. And let's not forget Abbott Labs, ABT, healthcare stock, EPS is $1.14. Expected move is 4.24% when they release. Okay, now we're moving on to the economic reports hitting the tape this morning. 8:30 a.m. we get the Empire State Manufacturing Index. 10 a.m. import-export prices. 10:30 the EIA oil inventory report. And then at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to get the Fed's beige book. That's going to be the key one for the day. In terms of Fed speak, 8:30 a.m. Fed Governor Michael Barr is going to be speaking. At 1:45 p.m. we're going to hear from Fed Governor Michelle Baumann. Okay, now we're moving on to the FANG stocks. We got to start off with Google, ticker GOOG. They announced the launch of Google Skills for common tasks and workflow. Could be interesting. Meta, Broadcom extends its partnership with Meta to support Meta's AI infrastructure. Netflix, ticker NFLX, their earnings are set to be released tomorrow afternoon. That could be something to watch. Moving to Dow Jones 30 stocks, we're talking IBM. They're launching cybersecurity tools to counter AI-powered attacks. To Walmart, ticker WMT, they announced the redesign of its packaging for its private van, Great Value. Their private brands are pretty hot. They are removing a lot of the dyes, but it's really about some redesigned packaging there. Nike, Nike's trading higher this morning. There's news reports, it's nothing really fundamentally that changed, but when Apple's Tim Cook starts to buy the stock and the CEO buys a little more stock, it's just creating a positive sentiment this morning, but it doesn't change the financials. But Nike is showing some gains this morning, ticker NKE. Okay, now we're moving on to shareholders meetings. Adobe, ticker ADBE, Alpha, David, Boy, Edward, they're having a shareholders meeting today, starts at noon. What else do we got? We got some catalyst calls out of Citibank, Affirm, AFRM. Citibank opens up a 90-day catalyst watch on Affirm. And Zotis, that's ticker ZTS. Citibank opens up a 90-day upside catalyst watch on the stock as well. So we got a couple of nice ones this morning. Moving on to today's pick of the day. And, I really like Bank of New York, Bank of New York Mellon. Earnings are tomorrow morning. EPS is $1.93. Expected move is 3.32%. Yesterday's call volume, 3,552 calls versus 1,401 puts. That's more than 2-to-1. Open interest 38K versus 26K. I like that. And the major brokers are positive on the stock. But I got to tell you, I'm hoping for some weakness. And I'm throwing this out there as my entry price of $128.75. I give or take 25 cents, but if it's in that range, I like it. At the 130 range, I'm not really enjoying it. It's not as positive, so I'm going to kind of hope and wait for a little bit of a pullback this morning. And if it happens, that's where I'm going to take my shot. But that's my pick of the day. Bank of New York, ticker BK, Boy Kilo, 128.75. Okay, now we're moving on. We're talking about the stocks hitting the tape today. See if there's anything hot happening. See what we see here. Iran's out there saying no specific day set for for the new U.S. negotiations yet. DTCC partners with AWS and Microsoft for cloud migration. Yeah, cloud is fine for for storage of files, just not for real-time data. You don't transmit real-time data in the cloud. You just can't. Salesforce announces expanded collaboration with Engine. LabCorp, ticker LH, they announced the launch of LabCorp's fentanyl urine visual test. Mediators are said to be closer to extending the U.S.-Iranian ceasefire accord. Snap to cut 16% of staff. There's some headlines out there, about the U.S. sending more troops to the Middle East. Well, that's already been priced in. That was, like a couple of weeks ago, and they're on the ships, but it was already announced that that's happening. We'll have to see if that continues. GitLab, ticker GTLB, announces a partnership with Google Cloud. Stock's trading higher. Humana's having a shareholders meeting tomorrow. Target turns, that 30-year Pokemon anniversary into a sales promotion event. This is what they do. Good job. U.S. bond giant PIMCO has purchased all $400 million of bonds issued by Blue Owl's private credit fund. Bonds mature in September 2028 and are priced at a 6.5% yield. It kind of just shows you that the people are still positive on the credit on the tech space. Carrier Global, CARR, they're having a shareholders meeting today, 8:30 a.m. Supermicro, they're having an annual shareholders meeting this evening. That's all I'm seeing. Okay, now we're moving on to our pick of the day from yesterday, which was Travelers Group TRV. I mean, listen, it was a flat trade. I mean, the stock opened up 299.48, fell to 298.37, but it closed out, higher than it opened at 299.59, so it was positive. It actually traded up to like 301 something, but it didn't really deliver the 1%, so it was kind of flat on the day, but it never hit my entry point. But that's okay. I'd rather flat to higher rather than a miss. So yeah, it was flat, but that's okay. We live to trade another day. And hey, guys, that concludes today's podcast. You guys know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green.